and call the Scott County Board of, Board of Education, Board of Adjustments to order at 5:03. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing we have to do is we got a few procedural things we need to take care of. Approving of the minutes. I have not signed the August minutes, which I have not done. So the August minutes are taken care of, but I will entertain a motion on the September minutes once everybody has had a chance to go over.
Excuse me, did we have the motion and all last month for the August ones? Oh, so all you do is sign it?
Yeah.
Okay, good, very good, okay.
You're not ready to make a motion. We approve the September 7th, 2023 minutes as
Someone makes a motion to approve. Janet makes a motion to second. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries. If you plan to speak this evening, if you will stand and raise your right hand for me, please, so we can swear you in. I'm not going to do that. Charlie, if you will do that, that would be great.
Do you swear affirm the statement you're to make tonight to be the truth to the best of your information and belief? Thank you.
All right, maybe seated. A couple other procedural items. We're going to change the schedule around a little bit because I obviously have to recuse myself from one of the applications. So we're going to put it last on the list since we only have 3 this evening. Hopefully that is okay with everybody. But we'll put that last. So the first one, that'll move B and C, and we'll switch those. The first application this evening is S-2023-32. Do have a couple of things we need to take care of on that one. One of the things is we must have a tax form in place, and we can't find that or don't seem to have that for you.
I don't know anything about tax form.
Elise?
We sent out an email requiring that you're in good standing with municipal taxes, code enforcement procedurals, and revenue commission. And without a completed form signed by those offices, we cannot proceed with an application hearing.
I was not aware of that.
Okay. You're not going to like my next comment then. So by rule, we can't hear that. We can't hear that on the docket until that is filed. So we'll have to continue that until the next meeting. If that is okay, then you can get that in. So if you need that email, I'm sure Elise can send you another email and we can get that out. So sorry to make you wait, but we just can't hear that. You're welcome to stay for more punishment tonight if you would like. But you
So
won't
now
have
will this just be continued over to the next meeting, will I get a letter that we can reschedule?
We will not be resending out mail as part of that. It is a verbal notice that it is now moving to the November meeting.
Yes, it'll be continued, but there won't be any email to go out, so you will be in the November meeting.
Turn on the lights.
What's that? Oh yeah, everybody needs to turn on their microphone.
So I just need to fill out that form and,
You need to complete the form, and then you also have to contact Revenue Commission, Code Enforcement Office, and if you don't land in the municipalities, any of their city clerks saying that you're in good standing with state taxes.
yeah, now I just got the copy.
It's an easy sign. It's just a requirement that got passed. When was this, 14 or something?
Yeah, it probably has been that long, yeah.
10 years ago, they made it required, so.
So we'll be the first Thursday in November. We'll see you back. All right, thank you. All right, because we changed the last 2, that will now put the next application as S-2023-34. Elise?
Thanks. This is a conditional use permit for operations of a dog kennel at the property address 1040 Duval Station Road. It's an agriculturally zoned property surrounded by agricultural land with direct access off of Duval Station and nearest arterial being Seabury Road. It's a 10-acre parcel, so it does meet our minimum lot size for kennel operations, but ultimately after review of the ordinances, staff recommends denial of the application. So this is an aerial of the property here. McConnell's runs north-south, kind of parallel before the road crosses over, and then there's Seabury Road and everything like that. As I stated, it is a 10-acre parcel, so it does meet that requirement. This is just some more recent aerial footage of it, so you can see kind of there's some existing structures, some kind of farm property, there's fencing and that type of feel. And then this is a zoomed in portion to kind of the home site. There's I believe it's a modular home, a couple outbuildings, and again, you can at this one see a more detailed view of the fencing and everything like that. So it does have kind of some farm characteristics and everything. When we're looking at kennel regulations, while they are conditional use in the ag district, there's also standards set forth for site design in order to minimize the impact on adjoining property owners and ensure that it can blend in with everything and it's not creating a lot of noise, especially scent and light, and yeah, those 3. So, any buildings that are used in whole or in part as part of an operations of a commercial kennel, including any animal runs, need to be a minimum of 100 feet from property lines. So if there's any involvement of business, so sale of animals that have been bred or raised on the property, all of those buildings need to be 100 feet. And I believe the applicant stated that they have an existing structure that's 12 feet from the property line. So if this was approved, it would need to be brought in good standing with that regulation. I'm trying to see. And then all the locations of animal runs need to be in a location that would most mitigate the noise. So making sure that it's kind of out of the way and everything like that. It's not right next to the property line, next to a house. It's logically planned. The third one is that all animal runs, exercise yards, and outdoor areas be fenced in to ensure that animals not leave the site, and any outside areas used in conjunction with the kennel must be screened by a row of evergreens and, by a row of evergreen trees no more than 30 foot on center. There is some existing landscaping, but you can see that given that they're pretty sparse right now, you can anticipate that this was a winter photo or an early spring photo before leaves came in, and without seeing the trunks, without seeing the actual leaves on it, suggests that these are deciduous trees, which means that they would not meet the screening requirement necessary. Evergreen trees are wanted because they are year-round needle trees. They're very dense, and they do an excellent job of screening noise and light and sound and odor in a way. Noise and sound, same thing, but that's okay. So if this was approved, we would want installation of the trees in accordance with that regulation, again, for the benefit of the adjoining property owners and to mitigate any issues. If there's any signage, they need to be approved as part of the use permit request. They've indicated they would not be having signage on the property. And applicants for the use permit need to state the maximum number of animals to be kept on site, which the applicant has stated to be 20 to 25. So when we do these types of things, we tend to contact any agency that may have kind of involvement in this process. And in this instance, we were working with the Animal Control Office, who had some kind of concerning details about operations on the property, just some welfare checks and taking of surrendered animals that ultimately needed a lot of rehab and care if they were able to be rehabilitated or they could reasonably done so. We'd also received testimony from some neighbors who, while they may not have known that there were animals on the property initially, they were made well aware of it. They were very concerned. They saw a lot of activities going on that they thought were kind of odd and not maybe best practices for animal keeping and care. Staff has a concern on just the size of the kennel building and the proximity to the property line. There's not a standard of square footage per animal when you're operating a kennel, but it just, in general opinion, just seems kind of small. So if we were operating, staff would probably want to see a larger building if possible. And the last kind of item is just related to the existing fencing. There appears to be some horse fencing, some of that 4-plank long fencing that we tend to see. And given that these animals are relatively small, being that they're Chihuahua size, so they're 10 to 20 pound dogs on a good day, staff has concerns that the existing fencing is not going to be sufficient for kennel operations animals, especially given the condition that they be fenced to ensure that no animals leave the site. We've seen dogs wiggle out of really tight situations, and horse-style fencing is believed to be inappropriate for the size of dog that's going to be kept on the property. Staff is ultimately determined, and after a review of everything, determined that the approval of the application would adversely impact public health or welfare, public health, safety, and welfare. Animals need to be kept in good health, and while I'm not calling that into question, we're just concerned that if an animal that may be sick gets out because the fence is insufficient or the building's too close to the property lines, that it's just going to pose a threat to a lot of people's safety and well-being. And that's a big side of what we look at when we're looking at use permits. We're wanting to make sure that the uses that could happen fit with the uses that are approved by right. So residential use and farm use. And having a dog get out is just really concerning and everything like that. And involvement with animal control suggests that they may have already had animals on the property and had to have involvement with the enforcement office. So staff's just concerned that approval of this would just kind of make it more prominent or more concerning. Staff concludes that this would cause a hazard and nuisance to the public, again, if an animal gets out and if they're operating and they're needing regular involvement with animal control, that we're just ultimately very cautious about these types of things. We want good, safe operations for our animals, and having a condition or having an environment that's not safe for them should ultimately not be viewed particularly well. These are the 4 findings I have. Talks about the use permit and where it is in the statutes, the size of the property, concerns about site operation mentioned by neighbors, in the conclusion that approval of the application would adversely impact public health, safety, welfare, and would alter the character of the general vicinity. Which is why staff recommends denial of the conditional use permit. If ultimately it was approved, staff recommends 8 conditions. The first 4 are on this page. These are our typical 4 we see for use permits. And the next 4 is on the following, which is just saying that they need to meet all the requirements of health department, all requirements for building inspection, all requirements for state regulations related to kennels, which I understand are at times limited in certain regards, but we would at least want them to be in good standing in the kennel operation side of things. And that the applicant shall have no greater than 25 dogs on the property, and should they exceed it, they need to resubmit an application to our office in accordance with the standing kennel ordinance. As I'd mentioned, there were some concerns from neighbors that were voiced just on site activities, and when they heard the number of dogs, they were a bit perturbed, we'll call it, about it.
Any questions from the board for Elise?
Not yet.
No, but I had several people call me concerns about this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Is the applicant here? Would you like to say anything?
Yes. First off, I want to say that my fencing is 2x4 mesh. It is not the regular field fencing. The dogs cannot get through, and some of my chihuahuas are like 3 and 4 pounds. And the whole property is fenced, $32,000 worth. The fences are like 5 years old. So they're all in good condition. And then up at my kennel, I have chain link runs. And I've discussed all of this with all of my neighbors because they were concerned I was going to have a boarding kennel, which I have no desire to board anyone's dogs. I have enough of my own. And, you know, I clean their kennel twice a day before I go to work and when I get home every day. And I've got water right there in the barn, right next to it, right across from it rather. And they have fresh water twice a day, and their food bowls get filled up. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, do you have a question for me?
The board have questions?
Is the building that they're in, is that the one that's 12 foot from the fence?
Yes. What is it supposed to be?
100 foot?
100 feet.
Yeah.
100 feet from the fence?
100 feet from property line. So if the fence
Well, I
is
couldn't
90 feet from it and the building is 100 feet from that interior of it, but we get 102 feet from the property line, that would be okay. It just depends on where the building is in relation to the property line.
Well, right behind the building, the building and the 12 feet, and then my fence is a pasture. There's not even a house close to it.
But is that your pasture or a neighbor's pasture?
It is my neighbor's pasture.
So that's the property
So
line?
that's the property line.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
See if any of the neighbors are here.
No. Okay. We might come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, you want me
Yeah,
to
just
sit
take a
down?
seat if you will. Any of the neighbors here? I thought that might be the case. Any of you all want to speak? Yeah. If you will sign in for us, right up here if you will, and Charlie, you'll have to swear him in. I think he just got here.
Actually, it was Morrison questions.
Charlie, you need to swear me.
I was gonna say, we gotta swear you in first, if you don't care.
Okay. Swear affirm statement you're to make to be the truth to the best of your information and belief.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And
your name,
and
please?
state your name.
Russell Teeter.
I knew you were.
All right, now that we've been through all that.
Real ID.
Okay, if zoning is granted for a kennel, it's not, it is just for a kennel, period. So anybody could come onto that property in the future and build a bigger kennel.
The conditional use permit would belong to the applicant.
It's
Yeah.
the applicant to the extent that they requested and only for their duration of the property. So if it expands, you add a different service, or you sell it to someone else, you have to reapply
You'd
to
have
pick
to-
up the new operation.
Okay. So it couldn't get bigger, it can't become commercial.
And she could always apply to make it bigger, but she would have to come back because. it
Right,
would
yeah,
change.
but under this permit, it would
Correct.
be, that was the biggest concern, I think, because we have enough traffic already, unfortunately. And there are a lot of out-of-county, out-of-state, not local people buying property around now. And they don't have the same feelings about the land that we do. And we're not looking to have a big kennel on Duval. And I think I speak for most of the neighbors on that.
Fair enough.
That was my
Can I
question.
say something else,
Thank you.
please?
Yes, you can. Go ahead. If you'll come back up. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
I've been there, I believe it's 40 years, the end of this month, and nothing has changed except for I bought a storage building that's been insulated and wired, and nothing is any different. And I do not have cars going in and out of my place all the time, which she had mentioned that someone had said that. I don't have that. I have a regular job that I go to 5 days a week, and I'm not dependent on my animals for a living.
We understand, and we have to take into account of everything, so we understand
Okay.
that. I appreciate that.
Good. Chairman, if I could ask one question.
Absolutely.
As you come on up, that's fine.
Sorry about that.
Because you asked about commercial, and you talking about you don't need it, you have a job, this is just really more of a sideline kind of thing. But there are plans to sell and whatnot.
Not at this time, when I retire. That's the reason I'm applying for it. That, and I believe his name's Nathan, and Animal Control. Someone had dumped 5 dogs off, and they were in my driveway, and they were just hanging around, and I got them to go up to close one end of my barn, got them in the barn, and got them in a stall. And after 3 days of keeping them, I realized that these dogs aren't suitable for family. They would bite a kid.
Mhm.
So I called Animal Control and asked them could they come get them. And when they got there, is it Nathan?
I don't know.
Yeah. He said, if you have more than 10 dogs, you know you gotta have a kennel license. I said, I did not know that. I mean, I've been there 40 years, nobody's ever said that to me.
Yeah, we've never had any trouble with you in the dogs yet. That's not.
I didn't know that, they came on, we've been here the same 40 years.
Yeah.
No, we've got no problem.
So you're doing this simply because you have more than 10, not because you plan on any
Yeah,
kind of
I've
sales?
got like 3 generations of dogs. You know,
Okay.
it's not like I'm.
Well, then Charlie, they're that long.
Well, I understand they're not substantial.
You know,
all right.
I mean, I love them, you know, but I didn't get them to sell to people.
Okay. And I think if there is a motion to approve, we need to include in that motion that the reason for the application is not to open up a commercial operation, but because she has more than 10, and if she is to start selling and whatnot, she'll have to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's meeting the obligation of the animal control.
Of animal control,
Now,
not,
I was told that if I start selling, which I might in the future after I retire, but then I would have to get a business license.
well, you'd have to do that, and you'd have to come back here if this is approved, so, yes, okay, very good.
One litter would put her over the number pretty much. If she already has 20 dogs and she starts breeding and we're putting 25 max, she's gonna have to come back and
Well, but
expand that
if the
number.
ordinance says over 10, it's a kennel.
Right, oh, I know.
So,
Yeah.
so she's already double,
Yeah.
regardless of any more breeding, so, okay,
I mean,
very
what
good.
she's asking for 25.
Were you sworn in?
Yes, yes, it was.
State your name for us, if you will, please.
Charles Parker.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm at 676 Seabury Road, that is on that map. To the right, right, if you go to the other map.
It's just these three.
Well, I'd be up north of that, northeast of that position. I'm a dog lover myself. I've never met my neighbor, but I'm gravely concerned with the amount of noise, constant barking from the property of all of the dogs. And I've taken many, this is what I listen to. It's hard to hear in here. 5 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 10 at night. I talked through some of this. Hours and hours a day, every day. I'm going to say nonstop. That's what I hear. Everybody hear that? Now, I talked with the deputy sheriff about this, and he suggested I go and talk to her. I don't like to go in people's property and get in their business. I like to be a quiet neighbor, mind my own business, so forth. But I did go to the property yesterday to try and talk to her about this before this went to this. And let me just let this play a second so you don't have to hear me getting in and out of the car. I went there, got out of my car directly to the door.
They were excited to see you.
Not so much. That's the outside dog, so I went to the door. Storm door was shut. Inner door was open, so I knocked on the door. There was more dogs inside. I'm not sure if she was there or if she was unable to hear me over the noise. But constantly like that.
What time was that?
Let me see, I can look at the video. That was 11:06.
I was at work,
Yeah.
and they do bark when somebody comes in my driveway.
They,
But I have neighbors with big dogs that bark that,
occasionally, I hear all of the dogs. I know it's a big dog, I guess, next to you. That's intermittent, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about constant bark. It's nothing personal. I respect that you're trying to take care of dogs. But I have, even if I didn't have private health concerns among my family members, even if that wasn't the case, this is terrible nuisance, constantly, without end, and I've seen no effort made. I've heard, I guess you come out of the property twice in 2 years and say, hush! They quiet for about 5 seconds, you go in, they start back up. I don't even know why you would, I don't know why you would allow this. I don't know why you would have no regard for your neighbors. I don't know why you wouldn't make an effort to quiet them. I have less a problem with the idea of going in and out of somebody's property and a kennel for that, but at the idea of this increasing and compounding. You could discipline the animals, you could put collars on them, you could take them inside. They were just in cages outside that I saw. I don't know how many. I can't speak to the conditions. I wasn't about to walk around the property. I went right to the door, knocked twice, got a response, came back. But that's day, night, without end, ever, 2 years. So I would oppose anything that would increase the likelihood of any more dogs. And I'm already looking into ordinances about it and so forth. Because I love dogs. Till recently had a dog. Always had dogs. But I keep my dog quiet out of respect for my neighbors. to not be a nuisance, to not violate any laws. I understand the laws have changed. I've tried to find them. It's like going down a rabbit hole trying to find the current noise ordinance on it, but I'm still working on that. In the meantime, I try to get animal control involved just to say, what's the problem? Why do the dogs have to be so loud all the time? I am over 1,000 feet away across the street and 3 property lines, and I can hear them from inside my house. That's how bad it is. That's all I have to say about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on this? Good check.
Mine was covered,
All right. Covered by the other two?
pretty much.
Does the board have any questions for Elise or for the applicant? Charlie, one of the questions that has been raised is the setback requirements. She's currently 12 feet from the property line. And there's no way, I don't think, she can get back 90 feet. And that's what we're running into. We're animal lovers as well. I don't want you to think that way, but we have a rule that we have to follow, and that's what I keep coming back to, is that.
Yeah, and that, usually or often there's some kind of leeway, to make variances to the setback requirements. This is a setback requirement that was specifically set just because of noise and all. So there would have to be some alternative measures taken that could take the place of.
Right.
I can't imagine such measures to reduce it to 12 feet. But if there were something that could be done, it could very well be lessened by this board. But we've never done that. We've stuck with that 100, I believe, every time. I may be wrong about that, but I think we have. Or they've had, additional soundproofing and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, boundaries and so forth.
Yeah, so.
Anybody?
You said neighbors had called and the dogs had gotten out.
I had an email about it.
Okay, that
The
neighbor, I guess, is not
concerns-
here.
No. They said they weren't gonna be able to make it, but they had concerns about it and they requested to stay anonymous.
I understand.
I don't see anywhere on this property that we could do 100 feet. I'm looking.
Well, the concern with 20 dogs was this gentleman is 1,000 feet away, so 90 feet's probably not going to abate much for his nuisance level anyway. I don't know. I have a dog and I love my dog, and it barks a lot. And everyone up and down the street has dogs. So every once in a while, they'll all be out at the same time, and one will start barking, and they'll all start barking. So I call mine in to try to break the chain, so I know what you're saying.
Well, we will have to entertain a motion at this point. No other comments or concerns, or lack of concerns.
Janet, you said you had several phone calls?
Health issues and barking, the noise.
How do you feel?
We've ran into these issues before with dog kennels and so forth, and at some point, you gotta make a decision, right? Or we'll be here all evening waiting on somebody to make a decision. So I don't see any way around getting by the setback, and that's what I'm going to go to. It has nothing with the dogs or anything else. It's the setback requirements that is my concern. So at this point, I'm going to make a motion to deny application S-2023-34. Janet seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
That's true.
All opposed by the same sign. There are none. Motion carries. I hate it for you because we are dog lovers, but we have to follow that rule on that setback, and that's what's getting that. At least we'll send you out the paperwork, I'm sure.
Include some regs on just a
No,
personal
it was,
kennel.
it was endorsed by.
You can always reapply if you come up with a better version. Right? You can always do that if you so choose to. It's just the way it is currently. That's the decision that we've made.
So I don't know how I can do it emotionally, because if I got them 10 dogs, we need to get them right.
No.
According to animal control, no. And we have no jurisdiction over that whatsoever.
And we have been in this situation, I remember once before, remember the lady that we had, and she did have to
Yeah.
rehome several of her dogs to get her number down, I remember that.
Yeah, we faced this once before.
Yes, we did, and she was like you, but there was just no way to accommodate it in her house.
Elise, you'll send the paperwork.
We're just reviewing something right now about the regs before we
Hold on a second.
proceed.
The kennel ordinance that requires the 100 feet, it also says a commercial kennel. The definition of an ordinance adopted in 2016 says anything over 10 dogs constitutes a kennel, but this inserts the word commercial. And the definition section says a kennel is a commercial business. So I really think, unless this ordinance has been,
I don't see any changes.
I don't think there've been any, but I wouldn't necessarily be involved. I believe if it's a commercial kennel, then it requires all these standards. If it has over 10 dogs, it requires these standards. So I really don't think it matters that she's not selling. I think what matters is either she's selling or she has more than 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Either way, setbacks are a problem, noise is a problem, and so on. So
So the motion still stands.
I think the motion still stands, although since we were discussing it, you're probably going to have to tell me about it again, so I make sure I
No
minutes have it. Thank you. Now, who's second, first off?
I
Jan.
did.
And the motion was again, sir?
To deny based upon the setback regulations.
And this one's only 12 feet, wasn't it?
Yes, correct.
And the vote?
The vote was unanimous.
Okay, very good, thank you.
If you have any questions, you can contact Elise. Neighbors, you're welcome to stay for more fun and games if you'd like, but we're going to move on to the next application. Yes,
I do
sir.
have a question, sir. If there is a reapplication, will we be re-notified?
Yes.
as
Yes.
neighbors?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything after this, you'll get notice again.
We will move on to our last application of the evening, which is S-2023-33. I, for obvious reasons, am going to recuse myself from this application as it is our property that's applying for this. So I will turn the chairmanship over to Ms. Sonia at this point.
Oh, that breaks my heart. Oh, I meant the other. This. All right, let's see. All right. The third and last application then is, as he said, S-2023-33.
Thank you. This is a, this is a conditional use permit for a home occupation related to the mixing, blending, and/or bottling of imported bourbons and whiskeys in an existing barn. This is located off of Sowards Road. It's 197, which is in between Longview Golf Course to the east, or to the west, and Galloway Road, Frankfurt Road to the east. It's a 20.2 some acre parcel, and it is zoned for agricultural use, and staff ultimately recommends approval of the application. This is the property here, so it has that pinch point as you approach Frankfurt and widens as you proceed south, and then you can kind of see the portions of the Longview Golf Course. So this is kind of the layout right now. They have two entrances side by side. Sowards is a county maintained road, so they would be the ones that ultimately approve that. They don't keep permits, so I don't have a number for it. With an existing residence highlighted in that kind of green color and an existing barn that they'd like to convert over to bottle within. He's just interested in not aging any liquors on property. It's just the importation from, I believe you said Virginia previously, to the property to then be put into the bottles and then shipped out. There's not expected to have any additional staff hired for the operation, and including like regular delivery of input materials, they expect that there would probably be about 3 to 4 trips a month related to the operation. And they're intending to have approximately 1,000 bottles of whiskeys and bourbons processed per month. So it's just kind of a home business that's kind of gotten a lot bigger as of late. And so they're just looking to kind of expand the operation and operate on the property. We're not aware of any improvements to the building. Prior to start, we're going to need to make sure that they're in good standing and make all improvements required by building inspection and the health department. And they may need to be required to install a separate septic system, which is typically what's required when you have a commercial and a residential use on the property. I would defer that decision to health department. It's just something to be aware of. We did discuss, it was in May of this year, we talked about the agricultural versus ag buffer that was installed, or that was amended. And after discussion amongst staff, we determined that because this is really like an agricultural kind of operation, you're just aging it and then you're bottling agricultural properties, it does not meet the requirement of a significant enough change of use to where it warrants that fencing requirement. Ultimately, staff concludes that this application would not adversely impact public health, safety, or welfare. It's just operating out of that bottling barn, not having more than once a week type deliveries and operational stuff like that. We've not really heard any complaints or concerns about the operating hours or anything like that, and so staff does not believe that it's causing a nuisance. We're not hearing complaints of noise, we're not hearing complaints of odor or light. If this was a rick house, I think there may be a different story, as people are very aware of the black mold issues that a lot of rick houses in Bardstown, and mostly Bardstown has. But ultimately, this property and this, because they're not aging it on the property, we're not expecting a nuisance to the level that you would expect for a rick house. This is just a picture of the barn here. I thought it was a really great photo. There's probably a video of me rolling around the property trying to find the barn because I couldn't figure it out. It's a silly moment there. I would like to make an amendment on the finding related to finding 1, which talks about private recreational areas. It should say home occupations that exceed the definition or the limitations of the definition. So just when we make that, this is not falling within private recreational, it's falling under home occupation permit. Second one talks about the logistics of the property and the occupation. Third of which is talking about impacts on public health, safety, and welfare. And fourth one talks about the potential for nuisance generation, which staff believes to be minimal. And ultimately, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit subject to 6 conditions. The first 4 are typical for. The 5th is that they meet all of the requirements for building inspection and provide occupancy information to our office so we have it on file. And the 6th is that they adhere to all regulations set forth by the health department. Besides that, we did get calls about it, mostly just people wanting and really concerned about the opportunity or the potential of having the black fungus and the black mold that is typical of Bardstown and other areas with a lot of rick houses, which after people were told that it was not going to have a rick house operation, they were much more settled and they were pretty cool with everything. But it was a regular question on will there be mold, which is a valid concern, and that was a concern when we were doing the rick house stuff for ordinance amendments and that type of thing. So ultimately though, staff still recommends approval.
Anybody have any questions for Elise? No?
Not yet.
Not yet, thank you.
Oh, boy, I can't.
Would the applicant care to speak? Always.
It's weird being on this side. So this operation kind of grew out of a hobby. Is what this operation grew out of. We found out my son and I enjoy doing this together, so that's how this all started. We've made some significant improvements to the property. We put metal around an old tobacco barn, which is what that barn was. That barn has been in my wife's family for at least 60 years. It still looks the same on the inside. We did concrete the floors, put new drains in, things of that nature. So we have upgraded. We also changed the pond away from a cattle pond and put a fountain in the middle of it, put it over on the property. In order to have a permit by a federal side, we have to be over 200 feet away from the residence. We are 278 feet away from our residential home. We are not building rick houses. We will not store bourbon on site other than what we will have in the barn for blending purposes, which is about 40 to 50 barrels is what is normally there. Okay? That is the blending purpose of that. We do have a bottling line that we can use that is there. So if Lisa is right, the truck traffic will be very minimal. If you've been by the property, we just installed a new front fence. We're installing 2 large gates just because we don't want people on our property. So we're trying to do that, but we're also trying to make it look nice as well. So that blending operation is what it is. As far as the state is concerned, we did have to have a state inspection from the Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms. They have come out and they have approved us as well. So we have passed those inspections from an alcohol side as well. And so we went through all the steps. As far as the CFR code for fire suppression, at CFR.114.23, requires that we have certain fire suppression systems. We do have the fire extinguishers in place, which is why the state requires us to be over 200 feet away. So we have that in place as well. So we feel like we followed every rule that we can follow. This is our last step, so we're asking for approval.
Did you find out anything about an auxiliary septic tank? Are you gonna have to have anything?
We don't even have a restroom in the facility because it's our house, so we don't have employees, so we can just walk to the house.
Okay.
If we need to, we will, but right now we have not been told.
Okay, that's what I
And
was
we don't
wondering.
intend to put septic out there.
Yeah. I didn't think you should have to have one. I was just wondering if you had that
No,
conversation
we just walk back
yet.
in the house, yeah.
Yeah. I could be back in a minute.
Yeah, there's a bathroom in there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes they qualify it, that even if it doesn't have a restroom, if it has commercial uses, it may
Yeah.
require it, so I just toss it in there and be like, hey, you might be asked
Okay,
if you go to health department, which you should be going to.
so you'll know then.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Darren?
Charlie, we're quite familiar with the property and the neighbors and your wife and the family. The neighbors don't have a problem with this.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
So, yeah, it's quiet and part of the land really wasn't very good for farming anyway.
Correct.
And we're all for doing commercial stuff with land that's not good for farming.
Yeah,
And
correct.
you're not really impacting the farming.
No.
And that's why the neighbors, none of them are concerned about it.
I appreciate that,
Well-
thank you, thank you very much.
And good luck.
Thank you,
We
appreciate
got
that.
friends that do this and they make money.
Yeah, exactly, that's the intention, it's a
Well-
hobby. Hopefully our kids can make money off of it, that's the intention.
We shall see if any neighbors.
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am.
Thank you for the moment. Anyone else have any questions for Darren? No?
Can you think of any other procedures or steps he needs to go through? Sounds like he's followed everything he needs to do.
It sounds like he's acting like some kind of engineer or something.
He quoted us stuff not lynching.
Okay. Well, are there any neighbors here who would like to speak?
I have a couple of questions. So I think I'm Marla Markham. I live at 340 Swords, and this is my mom. She lives at 338. My biggest concerns were mostly answered between the two of you. My biggest concern was stink. I can't imagine living in Frankfurt, the smell. And forgive my ignorance, I don't drink, I don't understand the process, so it sounds like what you're saying is that what you're doing will not create a stink.
If I can answer that just real quick,
Yeah.
what creates the stink is basically evaporation from rick houses. So when those barrels age, it evaporates through the top. We're not even storing there long enough. I hope we're not there long enough. There should be a bottle out the door, so you should just call it off.
Okay, because that would be, if that ever became a problem, that would be something I couldn't tolerate the
Yeah.
smell of. Ugh.
Yeah.
And then you say that there's only going to be a truck coming in maybe once a week, maybe 4 or 5 times a month. Are we talking a semi? Because that road is a problem for
I
some.
will say, from time to time, there'll be what's called a pub truck that'll come through there, which is a small semi. I can't get a 53-footer in there hardly.
Mhm.
We tried. You can turn around behind the barn, it's a little difficult.
Right.
But the fire engine's the same size, and the only time they would be in there is from about 9 o'clock to 3. So they wouldn't be in there all day long.
Right.
I don't want them in my yard either.
Yeah. Yeah, that road is just, and it seems like we're getting more and more commercial, stuff on that road, and it's like, what happened to this country road? And I'm curious, do you have any aspirations down the road for it becoming more tasting room?
I need to address that.
Okay.
If I can. The answer is yes, we do, and I'll put that on record. And it's out in public knowledge now, so I can, because Elisa's getting ready to laugh. We have applied for a permit for a full distillery, not on that property. Okay? It is somewhere else here in Georgetown. I won't give the address as to where it's at, People can fish and find it for themselves at this point, but we will not do anything more than what we're doing currently on that property. It will be somewhere else.
Okay. And I think you all answered the other questions that I had, my concern about storing it, fire,
Yeah.
traffic, steam.
My background is occupational safety and health. That's my background, so it would look pretty bad if I didn't follow those. And I don't want to lose my professional licenses, so I'll keep those. So hopefully I answered your questions.
That's all your questions. Right.
Yeah.
That road is just,
Yeah, if there's a wreck on 460, you're going to get 18 vehicles going over
Yeah.
there. Unfortunately, it's the state.
perhaps it might be possible for you to, if it's a really large truck, for them to come in the 460 side.
Normally they will, because I know where they're coming from. They're not going to come much off the interstate. We do store barrels at White Dog Facility, which is on Midway Road, just to be very transparent, but that's a pub truck that comes back and forth. Once a month, maybe, they'll bring 20 barrels in.
So we're not talking daily by any means.
I know. I don't have time to do daily repair.
Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak on the application? State your name, please.
Faye McIntosh. We're adjoining neighbors with the Dillos, and the McIntosh family totally supports Dillos.
Oh, nice. Thank you very much. Anyone else? No? Does anyone have any more questions for Darren or for the staff? In that case, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve S 2023-33 as it's written.
With the 6 conditions.
Yes.
May I add the reminder that the staff recommends updating the finding, the first finding?
Yeah, I've
Oh,
already
yeah.
got that in the minutes, so.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
It's not recreational, it's home
It
occupation.
is not.
Well, I think it's fairly recreational,
That's what I was thinking.
but that's just a personal observation.
I agree, Charlie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's passed.
Thank you.
You know the routine.
Can I come back now?
You may. This is when we need a gavel, so I could literally hand it back over to you.
You have the gavel. You didn't use it when I brought it.
I've used it one time.
You did use it.
I tainted it, I used it first.
All right. Well, this is easy. Any other business that we need to go over for the Board of Adjustments?
Jen, you want
Do
to?
we need to bring that up, Charlie, to go over what we discussed on?
Oh, no, because that's not on the agenda,
Okay.
but if that person's here, I'll gladly talk to them.
Can we do that out of session, Charlie, or does that
Oh,
stay?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and
Talk about that
adjourn
at the
the
meeting.
Scott County Board of Adjustments at, 5:50 this evening, so. Meeting is adjourned. All right. Now, you guys are up. Come on up.
We should ask the neighbors over there why they're having voice complaints.
Hello?